Welcome, everyone. Hello. It's not evening already. I almost said good evening. Welcome to the wrap-up event for event which we called wrap-up event for ambassadors of Green Guidance. My name is Laci Ostroha, and I will be facilitating, moderating this event. I have been also involved in this project directly, as I'm also representing Slovak associations for career guidance and career development, the largest professional associations of career practitioners and professionals in Slovakia, and also organization which was coordinating the project. When I'm talking about the project, it's project exploring green guidance. I'm sure, or at least I hope that most of you have heard about this project, since it will be project with which will be presenting here. First, sort of bit of information that you need to know. This event will be in English, but you can turn on your captions in the toolbar below. So you can find captions there, or you will go into more tab, three dots, where you will show your captions, and you can also choose language. And the content of this webinar will be translated automatically into your language. I think there are multiple languages: Portuguese, Czech, etc. So you can turn on your language, and it will be automatically translated into your language. I think there will be more. There will be, I think, more than 100 people registered for this event. But since it's webinar, I think this number will sort of vary. But you are fellow colleagues, fellow career practitioners and professionals, but most importantly, a green guidance ambassadors and green guidance enthusiasts. So we think this is a sort of wider green guidance community that we've created over more than 2 years of implementation of this project, which was one of the goal of this project, to not only implement and develop resources, but also to create a momentum around green guidance, and also to create community around it, which will hopefully go beyond this project. When I'm talking about the project, I think maybe some of you know that there were 5 countries involved in this project: Slovakia, Czechia, Portugal, Norway, and Poland. You will get to meet many of my colleagues here today, because they will be speaking and having different inputs today. So you will get to meet them. And this project originated in 2023 in October. We started with the sort of research into the topic of green guidance, and then we moved into development of practical tools jointly with you. Many of you participated in that development. We developed handbook for practitioners, and also we established a network of ambassadors. That's why we're here today, to celebrate that we actually created this lively network of green guidance ambassadors, and you were piloting tools that we've developed jointly in this project in your practice. We have a very short video for you where we ask some of the ambassadors what's their opinion on green guidance, and how did they manage to incorporate it into their own practice. So we can put on the video.
Eu sou Mariana Lucas Casanova e sou docente da Escola Superior de Educação e investigadora integrada do INED. E venho falar-vos do projeto Exploring Green Guidance, um projeto financiado pela União Europeia que reúne organizações internacionais para pensar a orientação vocacional e o desenvolvimento de carreira de modo a que possam integrar dimensões ambientais e de justiça social.
Veľká téma je teraz práve udržateľná budúcnosť v zmysle ekológie, otepľovania a ďalších tém, ako my budeme s touto planetou spolu nažívať. Máme na to rôzne prístupy, od alarmistických až po nejaké popieracké, nájsť sa niekde medzi v tom a svoju budúcnosť nastavovať tak, aj profesionálnu, aj osobnú, aby som bol v súznení so svojimi hodnotami. Je našim cieľom podporovať klimatickú úzkosť, ani vyrábať klimatických aktivistov, ale máme takýchto žiakov, takéto deti sú. Čiže dobre je s nimi pracovať a skôr ich zmocňovať v tom, že každé ich rozhodnutie môže byť dôležité, netreba sa toho bať, netreba rezignovať na budúcnosť, na vlastný život, na vlastný rozvoj, byť čo najväčšia kapacita, nech už sa začne venovať čomukoľvek a uvažovať, ako tú svoju budúcnosť spojiť s tým, že budúcnosť planéty alebo svojho bezprostredného okolia zlepšujem. Čiže privádza to na tú citlivosť, čo sa deje okolo mňa, čo môžem zmeniť vo svojom bežnom živote.
I do is a lecture around sort of what does life as a graduate kind of look like. Green guidance for me is very much the whole, I guess, SDGs in a way. That's how I view green guidance, even though the name doesn't have it in it. Yes, sustainability and care for the world and the environment, and that's incredibly important. But you can't sort of separate that from everything else. And equally, you can't separate sort of social injustice from sort of climate change, because we know that climate change is going to disproportionately affect the part of the world which has the least sort of equal access to education, for example. So you can't separate the two.
I also belong to a younger generation of practitioners, and I think many of us share a strong sense of concern about where the world is heading. But for me, it's also created quite a strong drive to question things and learn more and imagine alternatives and not simply accept that everything has to be the way it is. And I kind of find there's something quite energizing for me in allowing myself to be critical in questioning the world that we live in and not automatically just accepting existing structures of power, success, and normality as neutral or inevitable. For a long time, I think I tried to keep that critical impulse separate from my professional identity, as if these strong emotions and frustration or anger about injustice has no place in guidance. So it's been important to find a responsible and constructive outlet for that energy. And I feel like green guidance can be transformed into reflection and dialogue and possibilities.
Yeah, I think we can stop sharing the screen, Tomasz. So you've heard some of the people involved in the Green Guidance project speaking about their experience with engaging with Green Guidance from either from it was from Sweden, Slovakia, Portugal, UK. A little side note: we are exciting about the UK coming back to Erasmus Plus program as of next year. Huge props to UK. And when I sort of go back in time and I rewind a little, you did you hear me?
No, you just muted yourself, Latsi.
Yes.
I just what was the last thing I said?
When you look back.
Okay. Yeah. So when we look back in the Green Guidance project in October 2023, we started this project in Prague, in a Prague meeting, and I remember a presentation by Professor Miriam Dimsits from VIA University College from Denmark, where she introduced a framework into a environmentally sustainable care guidance, she calls it. And she's also one of the leading figures behind Green Guidance, one of the leading academicians. And we are just glad that we are here, that Miriam is here with us. So please, Miriam, can you maybe remind us a little about the framework and how we can look, different perspectives on how we can look at Green Guidance? So
Yeah.
floor is yours.
Thank you. So my time to present now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving me a platform to speak about this important topic. I'm just trying to share my slides. Stop. Yes, please. Yes. Yeah, actually, hi everyone. When preparing for this presentation, I went back to the presentation you were just talking about, Latsi. Like, what was the starting point from when I joined with you guys back in Prague. And then I put together sort of like the ideas we were talking about back in 2023, and then putting together like what has happened since in our way of thinking about green guidance. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about green guidance history and the current ideas that this project is building on. So yeah, I'm Miriam Dimsits, and I work at. I'm an associate professor, but thank you, Latsi. I'm an associate professor at VIA University College here in Aarhus, Denmark. I work with the School of Continuing Education, and here's some pictures of my organization where I work at. I can tell you the sky right now in Denmark is not blue. It is very gray and it's very cold outside. But please come in summer; it's much better weather there. So what I do at VIA University College is I teach and train career guidance practitioners at our diploma program, and I do research and development projects. And I work with green guidance for the last 10 years in different ways, trying to develop the thinking about green guidance, practice, writing, engaging with practitioners about this topic and so forth. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about green guidance history, green guidance and the concept of sustainability, how we have worked with refining the green guidance thinking into a framework for practice. I'm going to present to you a definition of environmentally sustainable career guidance, ESCG, and the 5 dimensions of ESCG. So just a little green guidance history 101. The idea was launched by Peter Plant, as you can see in the bottom of the picture. And he's a former associate professor at Aarhus University, professor too at University of Southeastern Norway. I think he has retired like a big part of his working life, but he pops up now and then and talks about green guidance, and also does still a little bit of writing on this subject. And Peter Peter Plant, he launched this idea because he was asking this question: how does career guidance practice respond to a labor market with a large carbon footprint, a labor market that is polluting local environments, that is creating injustices in global supply chains? And this led him to launch this idea of green guidance, that we need a guidance approach that in its delivery and content seeks to benefit the environment and people, which jobs are green or can work in green ways. And he launched this idea in 1996. So, and now we're in 2026. But sometimes ideas, they need time to mature. But Plant's argument for green guidance is that it's already in the career guidance DNA, that career guidance was actually invented to help people navigate and solve problems arising in modern globalized society. Like career guidance is the lubricant of society. Career guidance supports people's participation in educational work to the benefit of individual and society. And going back to old Frank Parsons, who founded the world's first vocation bureau, he would say that, well, just career guidance is always a partner in taking care of societal problems. So, because societal problems are also individual problems, and individual problems become societal problems. So this goes for this goes for a societal problem as climate crisis, pollution, and depletion of biodiversity as well. So, and Plant's idea of green guidance in practice is that we need to create attention to the ecological effects of specific vocational choices. We should be active in creating education programs and internships that contribute positively to ecology and climate. And we also should be aware that career guidance should have green quality standards and be evaluated accordingly from green measures. So by when working with green guidance in practice, you're trying to help people get into a green career path, and you can always discuss what is a green career path. And Peter Plant, he has these different examples, like for instance, a lawyer working with environmental law, a hairdresser working with our environmentally friendly products, a construction worker working with environmentally friendly materials or reusing materials, a greenkeeper who's creating biodiversity. So perhaps not when you look at these people to begin with, you see a green career, but you see what they're contributing to. And that's the most important thing. What are you contributing to with your job? So alongside the plant, he has refined this idea of green guidance. The concept of sustainability has moved center stage, and it was given a big push with the Sustainable Development Goals being put forward in 2015. Um, and sustainability is like it's a really potent concept because it's a concept that shows the connection between nature, work, and economy, and it dissolves the notion that the world is compartmentalized, that out there is nature, in here is my office, there's the labor market, there's industry. Sustainability really shows us that things are connected. So it also touches upon this false notion that is in the Anthropocene worldview, as we call it, like human beings are controlling the world. That's like an Anthropocene worldview. And we can see that yes, human beings, we are affecting the planet, but we are not in control of the weather, the oceans, the diversity of species, and so forth. So sustainability really helps us to see this connectedness, the chains, the cycles in our actions. And when we see these connections, it can also open our view as career guidance practitioners to see what can a green career be. Because many different jobs can contribute to each SDG, each Sustainable Development Goal, and from all education levels, not just academics or not just vet programs, like many different jobs can contribute. On the other hand, the problem with the sustainability concept, but also just taking the sustainable development goals under your arm and saying, okay, I'm just practicing with them. I'm just practicing my green guidance practice with these in my hand. Then there are the SDGs on gender equality and partnerships for goals, very important SDGs, but they may steal like the immediate focus of trying to increase biodiversity. So maybe that leaves us with just going back to green again. That is something we have been discussing in our group in the Green Guidance project as well. But in the meantime, you could say, well, the planet doesn't really care what we call it, because I'm showing you here a graphic of the planetary realms. And the planetary realm is stating like an important area that is securing um, the way of the world to regenerate itself so that we can live in it, so that we human beings can have like a good life on planet Earth. We talk a lot about climate change, but it's just one out of 9 planetary realms. There's also biosphere integrity, land system change, and so forth. Um, and and whenever the planetary realm is in the green area, then it's able to sustain itself, regenerate itself. But as you can see here, 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries are exceeded. So then they are not able to regenerate themselves. And this is a result of the way we consume, we produce, we live, and basically a result of how we work, how we have organized the world of work, our production systems, and so forth. So this calls for urgent change of the way we consume and produce and live, and is a task for career guidance. So you could say that if we got a call from the planet's HR person, it would say that, okay, so you're in the middle of your jam right now, enjoying yourself, but hey, you just have to stop. You have to stop right now. I can see you enjoying yourselves, but we have to move forward and do things in another way. So throughout this project, Tristram, Huli, and I, and together we've discussed this with the Green Guidance, Exploring Green Guidance group in this project. We tried to develop some terminology that can help career guidance practitioners to get to work ASAP. So this is what I'm going to introduce to you here. So we coined, even though the planet doesn't care what we call it, we tried to, bring some clarity into the field, and we coined the term environmentally sustainable career guidance, ESCG. And environmentally, because we should never in this practice lose sight of climate, environment, and biodiversity, and sustainable because we should never lose sight of the entanglement of all things and the systemic interconnection of all things. So we made this definition. I'm going to read it out loud to you. Environmentally sustainable career guidance is a practice that empowers individuals, groups, and collectives to develop their lives and careers in ways that do not compromise the ability of other people nor future generations to meet their needs. It recognizes that human beings are a part of nature, which is valuable in its own right, and that all life, particularly the life of the most vulnerable, is threatened by a growing climate crisis, the depletion of biodiversity, and other environmental damage caused by human action. Environmentally sustainable career guidance is a pedagogic intervention which builds individual and community capacity to analyze, respond to, and address social, environmental, and career problems while supporting people to build a good life for themselves and others. Fundamentally, it aims to stimulate people's imagination and empower them to find their way to a better life and a sustainable world. So sometimes you do need some words to be clear about what is this practice about. So we did a piece of work where we read and reviewed literature on this topic, asking ourselves the question, how can we develop the theory and practice from what we already know? And we made a narrative literature review of this literature that we read, and it resulted in 5 narratives on how to address career development, address career challenges in times of eco-social crisis. And this narrative literature review, it led us to carve out 5 dimensions of environmentally sustainable career guidance. So as we work with this, we could see that there are many different entry points to this practice. And people working in this field have different entry points, depending on the research area they're working with. But we could see that we could carve out these different dimensions, and that they could all add value to this this practice, the ESCG. So we found in the literature a narrative about the effective dimension, the social ecological dimension, the educational dimension, the transformational dimension, the political ideological dimension. And I'm going to walk you through these different dimensions in a bit, and then I'm just going to tell you that we tried to add like a learning area to each dimension, so we could help career guidance practitioners to sort of very quickly operationalize this kind of dimension into a practice. So what would be a learning area in this dimension? So I'm going to show you what we have been working with here. So to begin with here, the affective dimension that has to do with the emotional and existential challenges that people they deal with in eco-social crisis. And that could be alienation from nature and others, stress, burnout, loss of hope for the future, searching for meaningful resonance with the world through their careers. And looking into what a practice in the affective dimension could look like. It could be using nature as a career guidance setting, working with existential, grounding inspired approaches, working with craft approaches, working with groups, because when you're working with groups, you evoke universality and hope. And the learning area here is connect career with the world. So how can a career guidance practitioner help clients to connect their careers with the world? So we added an activity idea here for you to sort of see how could this look like very concretely. So you could, for instance, let a group meditate for a few minutes about a place in nature that brings them calm. If you have time, you can just go there, perhaps. Um, then you discuss the emotions that are evoked in you when you think of this place or you are at this place, and how your career and way of life can make more room for these emotions and these places. Yeah, moving on to the social ecological dimension, and this narrative here has to do with collective learning and collective action. In this narrative, in this dimension, it's very much focused on awareness of one's local ecosystem and how you can have personal agency and group agency and be attentive to marginalized or threatened people, species, and habitats in your local environment, your local ecosystem. So practice could be like really community-based collective approaches, building solidarity, mutual aid, collaborating. Um, the learning area here is how can a practitioner help a client to build solidarity with the world through careering. Um, and to make this a little more concrete, we have put in here also an activity idea that is, you can perhaps get a group to discuss which societal or local priority needs to be addressed most urgently. This could be homelessness, poor air quality, lack of activities for young people, and then think about how different occupations they contribute to this. And finally, get the group to work together to develop and deliver a small project towards this aim. For instance, baking cookies for lonely elderly or making an area in the school or community for wildlife or biodiversity. So very much focus on the collective learning and action part here.
think
Social
I'm trying to just gently interfere because
Yes,
so if you can just speed up because
I'll speed
your
up a
time
little
is
bit.
up, so I'm just trying
My
to
time is up. Oh my God. Yes, my
yeah
time is
yeah
up.
just to speed up a little
Yeah,
and
I'll speed up a little bit. Okay. I'm just okay. How much when you say speed up, is that 5 minutes?
yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So the educational dimension is very much about how the world of work impacts the environment, and practice here is really based on exploring the connections between the climate and environmental crisis. I'm not going to talk you through the activity idea. You can get the slides afterwards. Um, the learning area here is learn about careers in a sustainable world. The transformational dimension having to do with how can we move into the unknown and still have agency through our careers. And this is very much about imagining and inventing a vocational future worth hoping for, and using like different entrepreneurial and transformational didactics. Learning area here is imagine and invent the world as you career. And then there's a political ideological dimension that has to do with understanding the broader political, societal, industrial, an ideological context of the problem. And this dimension probably is a part of all the other dimensions as well, but we wanted to carve it out separately because this is an important dimension that sometimes create barriers for practitioners because they don't know how can we handle this, because we are worried about impartiality and being directive in our approaches. So this has very much to do about how can we help people understand the nature of the problem and encourage clients to develop their own views on sustainability and career choices. And the learning area here is how can we help people to see they can change the world through their careers. Yeah, we put it all into this framework here, where on top you can see in the top bar, we could see very clearly in the literature that there are some preconditions that career practitioners, they need to have to prepare to do this kind of practice. So it's important to prepare. So it's very good we have this project that can help with tools and training and so forth. But the dimensions that I just talked about, they're here under the aims. So you can see that the learning area here is connect career with the world. It's the affective dimension, build solidarity with the world through careering, social, ecological, and so forth. And our idea is that career guidance practitioners, they can aim for these areas in their design of activities, content, and form. And that they can draw on many different pedagogies, because we saw in the literature that many different pedagogies can be used here. And you can also work with many different approaches. It seems as if working with collectives, communities, groups is very fruitful in this kind of practice. But why not also in individual sessions where these things come up, or you feel like an urge to ask questions that sort of challenges the client's thinking about these matters. So blah, 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 very speedy. Our hope is with these dimensions that they can be used for practitioners to develop their activities. And you can read more about this in the Green Guidance Handbook. So thank you. Sorry for
Thank you very much, Miriam, for your presentation. I think when I look back into in time for your presentation in 2023, it was really impactful, and at least it helped me to sort of wrap my head around what that green guidance is and how we can approach it. And your presentation and the whole framework created a backbone for this project, I feel, because we basically structured the whole project around learning areas and dimensions, which you mentioned. So I think it really is a backbone for this project. So thank you very much for that. So there was a presentation by Miriam in Czech Republic in 2023, and then we moved on with the project, and we moved on and we did a research on green guidance, literature review. We circulated a questionnaire across Europe, which many of you responded. Which many of you responded. We also did a literature review, and then we started to develop jointly with you green guidance tools, and we put all that into Green Guidance Toolbox and sort of a main material which we produce a handbook for practitioners. And I would like to invite two of the key figures in this project, and them being Mariana Lucas Casanova from Instituto Politecnico de Porto and Tristan Hooley, already mentioned today from Inland Norway University. I would like to invite them to share what we develop in this project, what kind of useful resources. So the floor is yours, Mariana and Tristan.
Hi there.
Thank you so much. You go first.
Shall I share? I'll share the slides that we did.
Okay.
And
maybe can I share, because I've done this very detail that I noticed. Is that okay? May I share them?
Please,
okay, sorry.
Please do it. Yeah, you can proofing better than me. So yeah, so Mariana and I are going to kind of talk about we're going to sort of shoot to the other end of this project about what we've done with a lot of this work and what's now available to people. So the first thing is there's a website which has got all of the stuff that we've produced throughout, and yeah, so you can access it there, and everything we're talking about today is available free. As Miriam said, the handbook includes some discussion of the framework that she's presented and so on. So yeah, if we go on, we've already talked about who's been involved, but if you want to see some of us, there we all are in Mariana's home in Porto, as we were busily working away throughout the days while we were there developing these resources. So let's move on. So this is what the handbook looks like. We're really pleased with it. It's available in, is it 5 languages it's in now? So it's available in a number of different languages anyway. So, and the purpose of this, what we're trying to achieve here is, I suppose, we felt that the kind of ideas that people like Peter Plant had advanced were very powerful, very difficult to argue against, but practitioners were often struggling to figure out exactly what to do with these things. And our research kind of backs this up. Lots of people, there are a few people who don't agree that it's a good idea, but the overwhelming majority of people do. But an awful lot of them say we're not sure quite what it means and how to do it. So we've tried to set this out in a relatively short handbook plus a set of resources. So I'm just going to briefly tell you a little bit about the handbook, give you an example of a few things that are in it, and then Mariana's going to talk you through some of the tools and resources. So yeah, so this is what's in it. So the handbook's starts with a glossary. There's lots of technical terms in the world of environmental sustainability that we've tried to demystify for people. And then we go on and talk about, why do we need green guidance? What's the rationale for it? And then what is it? What are we actually talking about here in meaningful terms? What does this mean? And then how do our students and clients feel about it? Because that's one of the things that people talk about a lot. I'm going to present just a nice little framework that we've identified as part of that. And then I think the biggest issue was raised in the survey, and often practitioners raise when we talk to them about it, is the ethics. Miriam's touched on that already. How does this fit with our professional values, like impartiality, and so on? And then how do we do it? And we divided that into 2 chapters. So the first one looks at working with individuals and groups, and the second one at more systemic approaches. And then we have some final thoughts. And within this handbook, there are a number of features that appear throughout the book. So the first is tools, which Mariana will talk to you about. Second is we encourage people to reflect quite often and think about themselves and their own practice. Third thing is we've got what we call critical corners. And I suppose what we were trying to do there was to recognize that not everybody agrees on everything that we're saying, and that there are areas where people might take different positions. Broadly, there are more radical and more sort of mainstream positions that you can take on a number of these issues around the environment, which essentially are about how fast and how radically we have to act. And so we've rather than just kind of take a middle line or just ignore one of those positions, we've tried to surface some of those concerns, these critical corners, and then we give you lots of further reading, additional resources, and that sort of thing. So it's all in there. So if we go on to the next one. So what I wanted to do very quickly is just give you a flavor of the kind of content that you'll find in the handbook. So this is a slide that talks about this idea of what is a green job. What do we mean by a green job? And this is some data from the European Union, where they talk about, well, we've got green jobs, which are roles that contribute to preserving or restoring the environment. White jobs, which are not necessarily damaging to the environment, but are not really part of the green economy either. And then brown jobs, which are actually damaging to the environment. And one of the things that we talk about in this is, well, how do we respond to this in relation to each of these 3 areas? And obviously, generally, we're in favor of people moving into green sectors and leaving brown sectors, but we don't anticipate that the green sector will ever be the majority of the labour market. We don't anticipate that the brown sector will ever completely disappear. And one of the things that we try and talk about in this is when we're talking about green jobs, we're also talking about a process of transformation that goes on across the economy. So it may well be that in a greener future, there's still some use of fossil fuels, but hopefully that's done in a much more efficient way and in a way that captures carbon and so on. Obviously, some people might not be happy with that, but what we would like to see is a process of greening, and so that actually raises some big issues for guidance in that it's not just about job selection, and particularly about encouraging people to move into a relatively small but quite critical part of the economy, but it's rather something that affects everyone and is relevant to everyone, and a conversation we need to have with everyone, even if they're going to work in an industry that is potentially one that you might think of as damaging. So let's move on here. So one of the ways we do this is through these reflections. So this is a nice reflection that we use, and I've used this quite a lot in training with practitioners since. So we say, imagine a 27-year-old mining surveyor from Silesia in Poland, a region historically tied to the coal industry, walking to your office. Aware that the government are keen to reduce the country's reliance on coal, she knows that her region will undergo a significant transformation in the coming years. She feels uncertain about her future, recognizing that she may soon lose her job, and yet she remains open to change. So this is the sort of thing that is worth reflecting on. Do you feel confident and competent to be able to deal with this kind of client? What sort of options have you got? How are you going to respond to it? There's lots of things. Are we talking about moving sectors? Are we talking about moving areas? Are we talking about somebody going through retraining? This is somebody who's relatively young. They're in probably a reasonably well-paid occupation. What are we going to say to her if she needs to go back and retrain and potentially move into something else? These are really big questions that we could be dealing with. And we're imagining that these kinds of questions might be walking into career guidance practitioners' offices far more regularly in the future. Okay, let's go on. So so we then talk about, no, that's fine, no. So I think we then talk about ethical issues and sort of concerns and issues. And the kind of way we discuss this is by essentially drawing out a number of common criticisms that are made across the literature and across the survey that we did with people, where people have got serious and legitimate, I think, concerns about this idea. And we discuss each of these. So we say, does green guidance hamper critical thinking? Is it just about pushing people into a particular job or type of jobs? How does it actually come up in practice? How do we make it work? Is it risky for practitioners? Does it just potentially make people feel bad without necessarily giving them things that they can do? And I think we take these issues seriously and talk about them in some depth in the handbook to explore ways in which some of these are legitimate criticisms and concerns that we should think about very carefully, and we think about how we resolve them and manage them and get around them and so on. And we also bust some myths. So some of the things where we think, actually, no, that's not really right. I can see why people are worried about it, but it's not really right. So we talk about that quite a bit. And then we move on again. And one thing that we've got is then thinking about, well, how do different people respond to this? And we can go through this in more detail, but essentially we move from people who are kind of very, very worried about this issue, really motivated by want to do something very, very quickly about it, through to people who think it's complete nonsense, there's no such thing as climate change, and why should we worry about this? What we think is that the skill of guidance practitioners is understanding and listening to where people are, where they come on this sort of spectrum, and how we manage their concerns and different positions. And obviously, if we're not just sort of propagandizing to people, but we're listening carefully and responding to their concerns, we have potentials to respond to all of these different groups in different ways. And I think we would hope that through helping people to learn more about this, explore this issue and how it relates to them, we also help to move people to a position where they're not just alarmed, but they're also engaged and able to act and make positive difference to the world. So if we move on. So we then get into looking at different approaches to guidance, and we essentially take some of the main activities of guidance. We describe them as informing, assessing, advising, and counselling and educating is the first. These are sort of the more individual and group approaches, and then brokering, advocating, feeding back, and developing systems. And we work through each of these approaches and imagine what a green guidance version of this would look like and how we might deal with it. And we give lots of examples, which we probably haven't got time to go into now. But our argument is that all of these are important and all of these are things that we should be trying to develop our capacity to do within our practice. So let me hand over to Mariana now to talk a little bit about the tools.
Thank you so much, Tristram. And I'm aware that we don't have much time, so I'll try to move quickly through this. But I'm also sure that most of the people who are here have already had the opportunity to explore our toolbox. And so this is the link to the toolbox in English. It will be translated to all the languages of the partner countries. And we have here the example of how you can go through it and select and refine your search according to what you're interested in. But describing it very briefly and also connecting it with what was presented by Miriam and Tristram, the idea of the toolbox was to build on the 5 pedagogical principles that they had reflected on and developed. So the idea is that through for example, the first one, connecting career with the world, we are working on the affective dimension. And so we are supporting clients in developing an emotional connection with themselves, with others, but also with the world and nature. And this allows us to work on feelings of alienation, hopelessness, and detachment. And we have here some examples. Using nature as a career guidance setting, working with existential or experiential approaches, but also some of our tools. And these are also not only available in the toolbox online, but they are also mentioned in our handbook, connecting them with some of the topics that make sense. So here, for example, would be the tool called Identifying Moments of Resonance. Then we have building solidarity with the world. And here we have tried to collectively develop activities, and I will briefly reflect on that, but Lazzi has already mentioned it, that these were also collectively developed to then foster collective, group-oriented or community-based guidance. For example, could be an example of how to build solidarity with the world. We have another tool that we created, the needs of the world and meaningful careers, so that people can reflect on what is going on socially and ecologically and start developing solidarity with these contexts, marginalized peoples, groups, species, etc. Then we have the learning with the world, learning about careers in a sustainable world. So this will be the most educational approach in which we will be discussing with clients about how the world of work impacts the environment and which careers can contribute positively. So this is a bit of more than an awareness, getting to know what is the world of work and what is the world of work in connection to nature and environmental concerns. So here it could be exploring connections between the climate and environmental crisis and the world of work, exploring companies' sustainable or not practices, information about the green jobs market, meeting with professionals from green industries, and we also have a tool example to looking at the job market through green tinted glasses. And finally, we go to the more transformative dimension. So imagining and inventing a world as your career, and this will allow people to start reflecting on potential new forms of organizing the world of work and organizing the way we work, we produce, and we live. So this is basically showing that there are alternatives and fostering this imagination in people. So we have here an example of a tool that was developed actually in Portugal, the reality of our utopia, but also, for example, what would your ideal eco-friendly future look like, and working with clients on this. And finally, transforming the world, changing the world. And so understanding, by understanding how the world works, and understanding how work impacts nature and ecological dimensions, then we can identify how we can change the world through our careers and our work. And here we also have an example of a tool that is basically focused on promoting values discussion based on ecological dialogues. Okay, so this is a summary of these tools that were created. So we have tools for various target groups, from primary school to higher education, but also going with adults that are working and people who are unemployed. We have tools that are addressing, and this is a little bit difficult, of course, because these 5 dimensions are very connected between each other, but we have tried to identify to which dimensions and principles these activities basically reflected or identified with, and also the kind of activity that we are working with, if it's on the one hand individual or group, and according to the areas of intervention that Tristram just summarized, from informing, assessing, advising, and counseling, to educating, brokering, but also trying to have something on advocacy and systems feedback. And so, as we mentioned, this was developed by all countries, in all countries, by practitioners who were participating in our innovation factories, and these were the experiences that were developed through this joint reflection and participatory reflection on what is green guidance and what it can be. And it was pilot tested in all these countries. And so we have some of the people here. But I would also like to invite you not only to explore the toolkit and the handbook, but also to explore our other resources, the literature review, the report from the innovation factories, the findings of the international survey, and the policy analysis that we conducted. So we are available to any questions if we have time for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mariana and Tristram, for your presentations and for being well, firstly for being academics in green guidance, but also for being advocates for green guidance in the international arena, as they call it. And I thank you, Mariana, for transitioning to the next part of this event. Because we have some of the ambassadors here with us, and I think, as you mentioned, that was the idea of these projects, that when we are creating tools for practitioners, they need to be not only tested by practitioners, but actually we need to involve them in the design phase, in the development of tools, which was sort of very it was very important for us to get them involved, so the tools make sense and they are relevant for the practice. And we are happy that we have some of the people some of those peoples here, and we have also some of the ambassadors here with us. So we will now give floor to them, and first of them being Sofia Diaz, psychologist from Portugal. Sofia, are you here with us? Can you turn on your mic?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Hi, Sofia. Can you share with us your experience with
I
Green
will
Guidance and maybe,
try.
yeah, and with the
Let me.
ambassadors?
Yes. Okay. Okay. 1 minute. Do you see the presentation? Yes? Okay. So, hi everyone. Let me. Hello everyone, my name is Sofia Diaz. I'm a school psychologist and I work in secondary school in Portugal. I would like to start by thanking Mariana for its fantastic and enriching training in green guidance and for the opportunity to be here with you. I apologize in advance for my English. I will try my best. And today I would like to briefly share a practical experience of integrating green guidance into vocational guidance with 9th grade students, focusing on values and eco values. So, this experience took place in my school located in Vila Nova de Gaia, in Porto, at the red dot that you can see on the map. And I worked with the 9th grade students aged between 14 and 15 years old. It involved 179 students from 6 different classes and was integrated into our vocational guidance and career development program run by me at the School Psychology and Guidance Service. This is a key moment for Portuguese students as they need to decide their educational pathway after the 9th grade. So the aim is for students to understand that vocational guidance is a process and that in order for them to ultimately make the best decision regarding their path and career development, we begin by exploring personal dimensions, including values, of course, and we also explore the Portuguese education and training system has to offer at secondary and post-secondary level, as well the different jobs and careers. And then the goal is to help them integrate and reflect on this information to support their decision. So at the personal level, I explored with the students their interests, physical and psychological characteristics, skills, motivations, and values. And it was in this sense that I decided to explore and integrate green guidance and adapt an activity that I had previously carried out, intentionally incorporating eco values, inspired by an activity from the toolbox that Mariana showed us. So the main objectives of this intervention were to promote self-knowledge, especially through the exploration of personal values and eco-values. I also wanted to help students understand how values influence educational and career choices and to integrate sustainability into the guidance process. Ultimately, the goal was to support more informed, autonomous, and responsible decision making. Okay. After we I can't talk. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. At the sorry, I mistake here. So at the personal level, I explore with the students their where? Sorry. Here. Okay. Sorry, because I have two computers and this. After we explore personal dimensions together, I use the video in which we can hear the philosopher Alan Watts argue that the central question is in life is what you truly desire to do. The video was used as a stimulus for a discussion on values. And the author states that many students say they cannot follow their real interests like art, poetry, or an outdoor life because you can't make money that way. And so Alan Watts challenges this, saying that if you make money your main goal, you will waste your life doing things you don't enjoy just to keep on living and continue doing what you don't enjoy, which he calls stupid. So after this, and from there, we explored other values behind money so that each student could reflect and build their own pyramid of values. There are in Portuguese, but to do this, they had to choose 10 values that they consider important and that they want to guide their lives and rank them from the most to the least important. Here we have some eco values like justice. Do you see the mouse? Yes, like justice is in Portuguese, so, but responsibility, peace, health, leadership, balance, helping others, and so on. Sustainability, innovation, flexibility, diversity. And here are some examples of the pyramids built by the ninth grade students when they reflected on the values they want to guide their lives and decisions, particularly in terms of career building and guidance. Particularly in these challenging times we are living in. This gives us a breath of fresh air and hope, I think, as we can see that many students have eco values in mind, such as diversity, justice, joy, balance, cooperation, peace, health, freedom, family. In the second part of the exercise, students work in small groups to present their pyramid and discuss the values with their peers. After this discussion, the goal was to build a new pyramid with the group's values. And here we have an example of a pyramid. So in the left we have the individual, and here the group's pyramid. And the group contained few values from the individual pyramid, but this was an important exercise for discussing different values and their importance. It should be noted that it was always emphasized that our individual values remain the same at this exercise and in life, but that is also important to work together with people who have different values from our own. It was more challenging for some groups whose members had very different values. So here we have another example. And we continue to have many eco values represented. We can see that group discussion they were able to consider other values, as well as rearrange the other, like helping others and the money of their own pyramid. So students were very engaged and curious, especially during the discussion about eco values. Many identified important values that they had never consciously reflected on before, including environment responsibility, community, solidarity, and community care, for example. The final reflection helped them, helped them sorry, because I'm in school and someone is knocking at the door. So the final reflection helped them see whether their career goals were aligned with what they truly value, and some students reformulated their goals accordingly. Also, there are some challenges that emerged. For some students, eco values felt abstract and difficult to prioritize. They are only 14 and 15, so others were initially reluctant to share personal reflections. From a professional perspective, balancing the individual reflection with group dynamics was also demanding. And this experience showed me the importance of using concrete examples and creating a safe, trusting environment. And the key takeaways to conclude this experience confirmed that green guidance can be successfully applied even with younger students when adapted to their age and context. Working with values and eco values enrich vocational guidance and makes it more meaningful and connected to real world challenges, as we saw before. Even small interventions can help students see themselves as active contributors to a more sustainable future and world. And so Thank you very much for your attention. Obrigada.
Thank you, Sophia, for sharing. And I hope this was inspirational also for other people. So if you are interested in the eco values tool, you can check it out. It's in our toolbox. We can now move on. I think we are quite tight on time, but so if you have any questions, I think we can move them into chat. If you are curious about something or you just want to send, some words of support to Sofia. So we have another practitioner from Portugal, Anabela Silva de Castro, psychologist from Portugal. So Anabela, are you here with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank, of course, Mariana Casanova again, like Sofia, because we make part of the same group. It was very important for me to be in this training and to have the time and opportunity to reflect, because in the daily life and in the professional life, we usually don't have a lot of time to think about important things. And I really appreciate this time, and I think I learned a lot. So thank you very much. And I'll try to put my presentation. Let me just see if you can see it. Yes, can you see it? I'm going to put in the slide one. Okay. So first of all, just to a little saying of who I am. I work in metropolitan area of Porto, which is association of 17 municipalities, and in this moment I am responsible for the coordination of the youth policies in this territory. I've worked a lot of time in career guidance, in orientation, for career orientation, in schools, in private consultation, but I was a bit far from that now, and it was one of the experiences I liked most in my professional life, because it was a moment, the processes that made with the young people were the moments where I felt psychology was most effective, not only because they were choosing a career or a project of life, but also because we were transforming, we were making changes in the way people could develop, and the way they could transform their identity. So these kind of areas of psychology were always the ones I thought would have the most impact, power of transformation. Then I went to policies, and I had a political also work, and that altogether make me sense to see how we could aggregate this and give a potential impact of the green guidance. So in the beginning, I start with a personal consultation, a private consultation with a woman with 3 years old, that had a degree in education, always worked with kids and young people, and had a lot of experience in competencies of study and working the curriculum, and she worked for a long time in that place, but she had the COVID, and the COVID was a problem for the work she did, and she had to stop that work. And since she liked a lot animal welfare, and she was very worried about something that is empathy and the importance of the empathy in our world, she started something completely different. She got out of the education system, and she entered in a clinic of animal welfare and started to work there. The interesting about this is that she started to feel not so satisfied with the choice she had made, because she understood that there was completely separation between the clinical work and the human work, the empathy work. Since she had some financial stability, she could stop, she could make a pause in her life, and she started to make these consultations so we could understand what could be the new orientation of her life. So she wanted to combine these two worlds, the affective, emotional, empathy, and competencies she had in education project, and this animal clinical practice giving her possibility to put this together, but bringing empathy to this world. When she was in the clinic, she understood that there was no values, ecological values, things that were worried about sustainability, and she tried to bring some of these ideas. We were working on the intervention to the place. Before we start intervention, and that is important to say, I approached her saying, okay, we are going to make this process, but I would like to bring to this process something that is called green guidance, and I explained to her why this is important in this consultation.
Da nossa turma? Eu não me
Sorry?
lembro dessa cara.
Ana Rita está com o som ligado, desculpe, só para.
Sorry. Okay, so she started to understand that maybe the way she could transform the place she was working and the way she could bring her values to the work and be more satisfied with that, maybe should have to be with taking another degree, and another degree in medicine veterinary. So we start to understand what would she bring from that new second degree. And she started to understand that maybe what she was needing was not that, because there she was going to take 5 years, 6 years, not changing the system, but being changed by the system. She was one fighting for something very hard to change in classic and conservative systems. So she said, maybe not, that's not the way. So what orientation can I have for my life where I can bring empathy and I can align these with my professional project, where is animal welfare, but also social justice. She has lots of doubts, many fears about the change. So we try to understand the individual consultation and follow-up reassessment, exploration of the opportunities to reorient her professional career. So we clarify the request, we validate, of course, all the concerns she brought, we suggest the possibility of integrating the green guidance, and we start to explore new opportunities and future possibilities that could align the interests, the motivations, the availability and skills that she already has, but that could also bring together these kind of problems: sustainability, animal welfare, empathy, education, and ecological values. The client's goal was try to be supported in this reassessing, because it's very challenging to change her world at 43 years old, and supporting her managing all the emotions and all the difficulties that she was going to have in the conflict at the work, with the conflict at the present work, because she was not satisfied effectively with it. What we need to guarantee in this case, in the approach of this case, was try to disseminate this approach of sustainability and social justice within the consultation and within the various moments of this intervention. And also to integrate these aspects in the career exploration, but also in the choice of the reorientation profession she was going to use. At the same time that she could put some alterations and transform some parts, small parts in the clinic she was working on. What did we choose for the beginning from the toolbox? An activity, what kind of life do I want to have? My life, my contribution. Why did we choose this one? Because at that time, 43 years old, sometimes people think they already know what they have, what they want for life, what identity they have, and sometimes they put all the focus in the profession and they forget that they contribute to life and to various spheres of life in many ways. So we stopped everything and we said, okay, what is the kind of life you really would like to have? If you could choose, what should it be? And for the other time, what do you already do in terms of social justice and in terms of sustainability sustainability, that maybe your work is not making you satisfied, but maybe in all the other spheres of your life you are already doing. And that was very, very important because she was able to, for herself, without my idea or opinion, she was able to ask to family, to work people, and to social life that she has what were the mission, what was the mission they think she has, what was the potential they think she has, and she got lots of feedbacks of what could be the most impact work she could have in each one of these persons. It was very interesting because she had time to pause, she had time to say, okay, this time is for me. I don't have to be always worried about the others. I can stop my life a bit and have the feedback of the other people about myself. And these feedback were very important for her to know, to understand that maybe going on with the clinic was not her career. So she started to searching for other opportunities and other professions. Meanwhile, she called a friend that is working in a psychology university and told him what she would like to do. She would like to understand how empathy with animals and with people, with the tutors, the owners of the animals, how could empathy effectively could support better clinical indicators for the animals. And for her, this is very important. She started to think about an investigator way of life. And she wants to support her idea. And her idea is when we put empathy in owners, in professionals, and in animals, we can have better clinical results and the faster results of the treatments. But she has to have proof from that. For that. So now she's trying to making a proposal for university for an academic contribution so she can prove this idea and these empirical ideas she has. We used green comp also because in some way we had to think, okay, imagine that you go on with your clinic for some more time. What is going to happen in the future in these clinics, in this work? Do you think they have opportunity to be green jobs in the future or better jobs in terms of sustainability and social justice? And so she started to look to the green comp and see other professions, see other alternatives, and also alternatives for the clinic. I put here some process description so we can then share. But the important thing I would like to say now is that one of the things she took awareness, she got awareness are two things specifically. In the future, she thinks the technology, the development of the technology in the clinic will be good for a good diagnosis and better diagnosis and treatments, but also maybe not so good for this empathy, this interaction with professionals and animals, which is also what she wants to work. And the other thing is social justice and the equity of access to treatment for animal owners. Not all animals can have treatment because they don't have an owner, and not all owners can give good access of treatment to their animals because they don't have money to do so. So she started to think with their clinic, what can we do to the families that don't have money, but they do have love for the animals? How can we do social justice in terms of these families? And now they are thinking about having a budget that is aside. So some families, not all, but some families in the community that maybe have this opportunity have a budget, a financial budget that can help those families with lower resources. And so she's working a bit the social justice like that. Then some impressions that we would like to give you here too is that the impact of the crisis. We are in crisis, political crisis, and also economical crisis. And I can say, for instance, that in Portugal we have the climate law, and the climate law is a very important law that is not implemented but was approved some years ago. But now we are going back in that law, and we are effectively having a political climate, a political system that is not going forward, seems to be going a bit back. And for other way, we have young people that are more awareness, more conscious about equal justice and about sustainability. So we have this conflict that we can help with green guidance. And some of the process things are here. What I want to bring here is the impact on client, the testimony of this client that she said, I had to do this activity to become aware of how much I was already doing in the various spheres of my life. So we could take her off only the focus of the work and the job where she was not aligned with their values, but she could understand that in the all areas of her life she was doing already a lot, and she could do much more, and she was a bit more balanced with this getting other focus of the focus of their life. In the daily life, she is more aware of the issues of unnecessary products consumption. She understands now that she has a more clean kind of life. She doesn't waste money in an inappropriate way, in the sense, okay, I don't really need this, so why am I buying something that is consuming resources from the planet? So she's much more conscious about this, she and the husband. And all of this is changing a lot of our perspective of the consultation. So, what I would like to finish in this moment, and through this process, what could I bring here? I think this kind of interventions with green guidance is very necessary in this system and collapsing system that sometimes we feel we are getting in. I think it's very important. I think intervention with young people is very important because not only they are more aware and more conscious about the importance of sustainability and social justice, but also because they feel eco anxiety and because they feel sometimes alienated and helplessness through a lot of worries. So I think it's very important to bring them this empowerment and bring them this idea that they can do things. It doesn't have to be bigger things, but they can do a lot of things and can be also peer leaders in this process. But also with adults who have already a professional and personal history, because we can work a lot on the history they bring to us and clarify a lot of the work they already do in the specific areas they live in. Not be afraid of going besides the box. What do I want to mean with this? Sometimes in our profession, we think, okay, I have to do exactly like this. I have a protocol. I have these guidelines. I cannot go out of these guidelines. I don't think that way. I think exactly the opposite. We have to have these guidelines, of course. We have to have our knowledge. Sorry? We have to have our knowledge and our ideas very well formed of where we want to go, but it's important to test. It's important to see out of the box and test our new opportunities, because everything is changing too fast, and career orientation from 80s is not the same career orientation in a world that is changing too fast. So I think it's really important to not have afraid to get out of the box and not be afraid of the question ideology, because everything is ideology. When I talk about sexuality, I am being ideologic in some way. When I talk about conception, I am being ideologic. What I cannot do is to impose my opinion to the others. What I have to do is to understand if my client is in a level or another level, or is open to some ideas or not open to some ideas, but question things, reflect things about that, and that we can go with him or with her at the level he can reach and he wants to reach. So these moments of sharing practices, of sharing what we have already done, what worked, what didn't work, what was difficult, what works better with some ages and better with some professional status, is very, very important. We need also knowledge that is actualized. We know how we work. If we don't actualize and we don't do it regularly, we probably go to the old habits. So we need this consistent network and this support on peers to move forward. My pity in this moment is that we don't have enough time to read all the materials and all the things that some articles were very, very important for my work here and for my work in youth. So I hope I'm going to have some time to deeper some of these activities. And then I would like to have a deeper structured intervention for myself. Utilizing this work we are learning and are doing in the daily life, so I can have kind of a panel where I can say, okay, like this flow is that the flow I should go. In terms of personal, in finishing the intervention, in terms of personal interests, I really want to bring these ideas to the appliances that we can do, to Erasmus and other kind of appliances that we can do in youth programs, because I think we can bring this to metropolitan area in some way. And in the volunteer places I'm working with, like associations that work with sustainability too, like Quinta das Águias in Portugal. I think we can bring classrooms of people, of young people, to first grade to fourth grade, and we can start to bring these meditations in nature and to connect them with the elements of the nature, and then know themselves better, but know themselves better through nature and through the respect of their interaction with nature. So there's a lot of things we can do. Thank you once again for letting us think about this and let the orientation for career be one of the tools. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabella, for sharing in detail your case study and also for that urgency in your voice. I think we really need that urgency, and I hope you will maintain this level of engagement and urgency also for years to come. We have last practitioners sharing expertise with implementing some of the tools and green guidance tool in practice. So I'd like to invite Tia Aula. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. A
It's
senior,
okay.
it's okay, okay, senior lecturer from Lapland University of Applied Sciences from Finland. So Tia, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think Thomas can. Yeah, yeah. Hey, Thomas, but my name it was quite hard for Thomas as well. So yeah. Nice to meet you all. My name is Tia Ahola, and I work in Finland, in Lapland. And I was doing my training in green guidance last autumn in Nancy with Thomas and 9 other brilliant tyyppi, we say in Finland. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna share my screen. And I'm gonna be quite short because I already should go. My daughter is having a circus club soon, so I have to leave there. But yeah, I will be short. Okay, I assume that my screen is you gonna see, you are seeing it. So let's move on. So yeah, I work in Lapland, University of Applied Sciences, and yeah, we are on the top of the world, so quite in north, and climate change is something that is really like in our very very close every narrative that we are talking in our university, because we can see the effects of it well here quite well. But yeah, in this case, I would really like to talk about the experiences that I've been having after the training.
I've been using the toolbox. It's really nice. If I can like recommend that, read it, get to know different kind of like practices that there are, because then you can implement them to your own work. Also maybe modify. I have 2 points in my presentation, and the one is know your target group. I held a moment of resonance practice or workshop to my students. There was 27 sport students. So I work as a study counselor to sport students. And I picked this workshop because I was thinking that maybe this kind of practice could be the best for them in that time of the day. They had a really intensive, this kind of like live day. They made sport coaching for each other and was doing some kind of testing, interacting all day. And I really saw that they are quite exhausted. Maybe they need some kind of like moment to stop and be with themselves for a while during that day. So that's why I thought that, okay, maybe this practice could be really good for them. Also, I think that they didn't know each other so well. So I thought that it could be because they were first year students. So maybe something to take, that it's not so like you don't have to argue or anything like make critical opinions, anything, and they can held their opinions also. And was something that where they can be just with themselves and their ideas and they like values, things, everything. But yeah, know your target group. And because I know that my students, although they had an exhausting day, I know that they really enjoy interact with each other. They like playfulness and they like compete or something like that. I knew that maybe I can somehow make the practice or modify it so that they can interact also during the practice. And because they were in different phases already, they still are in different phases in their career path. I thought that maybe just some kind of like ideas, things, values, things like that could be something that we can, like after the practice, we can talk about. And that's how we come to my second point, what is modify the workshop for your group. So when you know your group or maybe individual, you can modify the workshop or the practices for your group better, because then you can add or take off something. Use your like expertise as a counselor, or if you have any other expertise, and think that what I would like to bring here, what is the aim and where we want to go with my group or with the students or with my clients. What is like the aim for this session? So because I knew that my students like to interact, they like playfulness, I added to these moments of resonance, which is quite like based to your individual work. And there is this kind of questions, and you write down things, and yeah. So added to that workshop that this kind of like funny, at least I thought it was funny, marketing session in the end of the workshop. And there, first we shared some thoughts or feelings about the practice. And after that, I asked them to write down something that they would like to give someone. It could be some kind of thing or strength, some kind of value, quality, for example, one of my students said that he would like to have more time for study. So then someone could write down that I would like to give more time to someone. And after that, they had to write this kind of like things down. Then we held this kind of marketing session where they could go to someone and give the value or the thing or the strength to like the other student. And I found it really nice because they just started their studies in autumn, and I think it was I think they have been studied like 1 month before this session, so they didn't know each other quite well, but there was this kind of like uh, I think that it was really nice time to get to know each other for a little bit deeper. Because in our university, we really think that integrating to the group is going to help students to finish their studies. So we really put quite effort to integrating or doing the group work with our students. But yeah, that's all that I have to say about this.
Thank you, Tia. And I'd like to echo what you said that even the green guidance tools that you find online on our website, just feel free to modify them if you will keep exploring them. They're not set in stone, but you can modify it based on your context, or even use your imagination and come up with your own practices and tools. So thank you for bringing this topic, and all the best. You're going to I failed um, to hear you're going to circus with your daughter, or
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
She's going to circus and I'm going to go to climb. So
Ah, okay. So best of luck. Enjoy the
yeah.
circus. Uh, we have a quick announcement before we move up with the agenda. We'd like to invite you to the conference. This project is drawing to an end. It will end in March 2026, and we are all set. But hopefully, it will, the legacy and the community and network of ambassadors will go beyond this project. But we really want to invite you to international conference, which will take place in Bratislava on March 25th. Which is called Career Guidance and Social and Ecological Transformation. Many of people that you saw here today will be present there, so you can chit chat with Mariana, Tristram, and others which were here. So if you want to have a trip to Bratislava, Slovakia, you are well welcome. And then also, if you go into our website, greenguidance.eu. You also can register as ambassador there. It's important for us to actually create this database of Green Guidance ambassadors, and we will maintain this website uh, even after the project ends. So thank you very much for Sophia, Annabella, and Tia for sharing their experience with bringing the topic of sustainability into their practice. I think the idea behind ambassadors was really not only for them to test and develop tools and approaches, but also act as a multipliers and connectors in their national community, be local champions that drive change in their local context, but most importantly that they represent the values that we are talking about here. And I think they all prove that they are living those values and they're passionate about those values. Talking about the passionate people and advocates of green guidance, I want to invite one of the fiercest advocates of social inclusion and green guidance. He's traveling all around Europe, preaching about green guidance, and he's really well engaged. So, and he's also a coordinator of this project. So I'd like to invite Tomasz Szperlag. I hope most of you have heard about Tomasz. So you can share with us what were the results of testing of green guidance methods and tools in practice, because we actually did the final report, the impact report of this. So Tomasz.
Thank you. Thank you, Lazzo, for the introduction. Of course, I'm traveling by bus, train, or by hitchhiking. I hope you can hear me. So in 7 minutes, briefly, how the testing phase went, and I hope the sound is okay and you can see my screen. So just to summarize, the testimonials we've heard and many others we received from ambassadors are from the testing phase of the toolbox and of the guidelines. That went on through 2025 until early 2026. The idea was to implement these tools in real life, test and improve them, and get feedback from ambassadors, different formats of delivery, different populations and target groups, and the evidence base on which this impact report is based is basically focus groups, case studies, practitioner self-reports through a pre- and post-testing questionnaire. And the impact report is in the process of being finalized, and it will be published on the website. So just some snippets in terms of numbers. We had several countries that were involved, mostly project countries, but also outside. Sweden, Switzerland, France, Latvia, United Kingdom. So thanks again to all the ambassadors. In terms of the quantity, we estimate around 50 plus practitioners being involved in these countries, and you can see estimated numbers of clients from different target groups that were involved in the testing. What is important to say is that although we've seen today examples from classrooms working with middle class pupils, or middle class clients, we also had examples from the public employment services context, and also examples of practice from disadvantaged clients. So it's important not to position green guidance as something that would be destined for privileged clients or for people who explicitly mention these green topics. It's really, the idea is to bring sustainability into guidance by default, and the testing phase seems to indicate that it is possible. So in terms of how the ambassadors went about it, there were two strategies: either an explicit framing, telling to your clients, okay, so I'm involved in this green guidance, I'm sensitive to these sustainability issues, and are you okay if we bring these topics into the conversation? Or more implicit strategies where you would embed different tools into wider discussions around ethics, values, well-being conversations. Some of this we've seen in the example from Portugal, or a combination of the two. In terms of tools that seem to be the most used from what ambassadors were mentioning, so this idea of connecting your career to the needs of the world, to enlarge the vision beyond just yourself, and this very liberal, individualistic approach in green guidance. So the tools like Ikigai and SDGs, etc. But also what particularly worked well was developing future literacy through the tools like Future of the Cities, labor market trends, and also thinking about SMOOTH goals. SMOOTH is a tool that helps you connect your goal to the impact the achievement of this goal might have to your wider community. We will share you these slides. So it seems that there are several tools that are adapted to different target groups. But in terms of impact, if we take a look at the client or learner level impact, what our ambassadors say is that when you work with young people, these tools trigger engagement, curiosity, future-oriented thinking, and help pupils move from career decision-making that is focused on the individual and seen as an individual task to a collective project. So how can I, together with others, think about the future, and how can I shape this future? In working with adults, it's the reported impact was about reframing, finding meaning, coherence, hope, develop critical consciousness. And in many cases that were shared, there was this mechanism from moving from despair, eco-anxiety, to thinking about contribution, meaning, and how can I act individually or collectively to contribute. So moving from anxiety to agency. And of course, this idea of expanding the understanding of my impact, reconnecting my career with the impact and with the needs of the world. In terms of practitioners, what was mentioned already by the ambassadors, implementing this often triggers ethical reflection about what is my role, what is the role of guidance in maintaining the current system, how could this be transformed, and also how do I approach these topics with my clients. Obviously, this is where the dialogical, open approach is more efficient, and it's not about preaching something, etc. And at the same time, green guidance sort of legitimizes these deeper discussions about meaning, ethics, critical consciousness that sometimes can feel out of scope for guidance. And the third thing, and probably the most important, is that it's not for practitioners about tools. Tools you can, once you integrate the principles that were presented by Miriam, you can invent 200 tools quite quickly, or green your existing tools. It's more about how do you see yourself as a practitioner, how do you define your identity, and how do you connect your personal values with professional identity. As Ellen told in the introductory video, sometimes we put our individual values and stance into a closet and we take ahead of the professional, and we sort of, the idea of green guidance also is to reconnect this and help clients also to recognize the disconnection of these two and reconnect my individual values, professional identity, and what I do in my work. We also did some quantitative testing, which is less interesting, but of course they declared being more ready and more confident about providing green guidance. And this brings us to structural and systemic conditions. Of course, what we need today is more legitimacy for green guidance. This is where frameworks like SDGs or GreenCom can help provide some institutional backing. Of course, as many mentioned, TL, so there are time constraints. This requires time, take time to read the handbook, to read the tools, and without institutional mandate, today green guidance relies mostly on committed, motivated individual counselors. And this brings us to sort of recommendations for future work. So the idea is not to wait for a green client with which I can sort the sustainability topic out of my head, but try to integrate this sustainability topic into practice through different openings, discussing about values, ethics, well-being, critically reflecting about the work, the need to simplify and adapt the tools, and also thinking about how to develop integration or implementation pathways for practitioners, but also for service managers. What is green guidance, why it is important, and how could I go about it? What would be the first smallest step to do this? And then anchor this into organizational strategy. And from the perspective of professionalization or CPD, develop these communities of practice, because it's very difficult for individual professionals to maintain the commitments to this. And ideally, as Mariana did it already in Portugal and also Miriam elsewhere, embed this into the training of practitioners. And then, if we want to be a naive, idealistic, and ambitious, try to integrate it also into the policy level, into quality criteria, KPIs, evaluation tools, etc. Thank you very much.